to the one and only Derrell Smith. Welcome to Behind the Work. I'm really happy you're here, dude.
Yo, likewise. I appreciate you hitting me up.
Of course. So for those of you who don't know, I met Derrell when I was a college student at Syracuse. We both went to Syracuse together. Mm-hmm. At the time, I believe you were in the high school or you were in Whitman.
Both.
You were in high school in Whitman, which is the business school and the tech school. Mm-hmm. And I've always just seen you around. You know what I'm saying? Like we, I think, shared a lot of mutual connections. Mm-hmm. And I just loved observing you on campus. You always had like a really big spirit.
Thank you.
And then I also know that obviously you played SU football for a little while and went to the league. And so followed, your career a little bit, throughout the years. And so when I was starting to prepare for season 3 of the show, I thought about some of the topics I really wanted to cover, and food was one of those topics, and you came up. And I was like, I think he'd be a really phenomenal guest. And so I'm happy that we're going to chat it up today.
Here I am.
Okay. So with Behind the Work, Derrell, we talk a lot about the sexy and unsexy parts of success. We go deep into the behind the scenes of how people get to the places that they are at now. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is because I do believe that leadership hides behind smoke and mirrors. And I also think that we don't talk enough about the things that we've had to do to get to where we are, and that there are real paths and distance that are traveled to get into the rooms that we're in. Mm-hmm. And I think that one thing that really spoke to me about the little bit that I know of your story is that you've had so many pivots along the way, mm-hmm. To the point where from an outsider looking in, it can be like, wow, like he really has turned, his passions for food into something, but I don't think people realize that there was a process to get there. And so what I want to start with is, who is Derrell as a young kid in his community growing up? And let's start that story as a child, but then end it with where you ended up at SU football, and then we'll start from there.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. My biological father was a football player at Cheney University, and he was the one who taught me how to play football. Every time I would drop a pass, he would make me do 5 push-ups, and over the years, I just continued to like it, got better at it as I grew up. My stepfather came into my life around 5, and he was the one who funded my football endeavors and my sport curiosity. He was the one who took me to practices, bought me gear. Took care of me and raised me in that culture. And over the years, like I said, I just continued to just play sports, love sports, and I was just good at everything as a kid. To the point where they called me man child. Like I came out the womb with abs, and and it was just like, we'll put him in sports. But at the same time, I also loved books. Like I love books. I used to carry an encyclopedia to school when I was in grade school. Always loved to read, always loved to write. And so it's just this mix of talent, whether it was sports or academic. I always loved just doing both. When I was 14, we moved to Delaware. And Delaware was a change of pace, because in Philadelphia it was literally just all black folks. Like that's what I grew up around, just all black people. I got to Delaware and I saw every version of person. You saw rich black people, you saw poor black people, you saw rich white people, you saw poor white people, and it was a cool place to be because it kind of prepared you for life. Whereas growing up where I was, it was hard to get out of that situation, and watching my parents kind of get us out of that situation and get us to where we were, it opened up this world for me, and it introduced me to different type of people, different type of work ethics, different types of training methods. I became friends with people who I would never become friends with, and it opened up a different world to me. When I got to high school, I never played running back in my life. Like I was always a lineman because I was too big to play certain positions. In high school, I did a totally different position. And by my senior year, I was the #1 running back in the state of Delaware.
Wow.
I was also the top discus thrower in track and field, state champion in shot put, second in triple jump, was on the basketball team. So I did everything. And then I also was on student government. I created a chess club in my high school. I was a part of a committee with the principal and the superintendent where we made decisions for the school. And so I always was seen as a leader. Every sport I ever played, I was a captain. And so every single thing I've ever done, I've always been a leader in that space. Fast forward, get Gatorade Player of the Year for football, get a scholarship to Syracuse. My first year, it was like a rude awakening, and I would fall asleep in class. I would fall asleep in football meetings. But it didn't last long just because of my character. Like eventually, once I'm curious and I'm locked in onto something, you can't keep me from being in it and doing well at it. And so by my sophomore year, I became a starter, and it was a 3-year starter at Syracuse, 2-time all-conference, just a bunch of awards. But then at the same time, like I said before, academic-wise, I came in as an engineer major, which was the dumbest decision I ever made, trying to play Division I sports and also be an engineer. Quickly got out of that and decided to dual major in IT and marketing. And the impetus was I liked commercials. Like I love the art of storytelling, and somebody being able to tell a complete story in 15 to 60 seconds was something that intrigued me. And I don't know, marketing was something that I've always been curious in or about. My senior year, I had the opportunity to start grad school at Newhouse, got into the advertising program. And yeah, that was my SU career before the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting that you talk a lot about being a leader, in anything that you did. I think that was me too. Like when I was in middle school and high school, like I was the president of everything. I was leading everything. I was always academically excellent. And then when I got to Syracuse, that first year was hard for me too.
Yeah.
Like I remember being like, oh, wow, like I feel like I've been pulled out of the matrix. And I feel like I went from being at the top to being at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I was like struggling with like work-life balance, or not work-life balance, but I guess you could say like school-life balance. I was trying to figure out like what academics looked like. There wasn't, my parents weren't around to keep me accountable. And I remember being like, am I gonna fail? But you're right. I think that when you're a resilient person, some way, somehow, you find a way to like pick yourself back up. So by sophomore year, I was fine, you know? But that first year, I think for many of us, especially that, have always been high achievers, it can feel really humbling.
For sure.
It can feel really humbling. And so, all right, so now went to Syracuse, did the thing. You get into the league for a little bit, right?
Yep.
And tell me, what was the impetus for you to be like, you know what, I'm gonna take this football thing and I'm gonna see if I can make a career out of it? Because you could have did anything with IT and marketing. For
sure. Well, NFL it's tricky because if you play football at that level, you got to realize some exceptions, but most people who play Division I football have played football their entire life. And in order to continue to go on, there's so much sacrifice, there's so much pain, there's so much concentration that goes into being a professional athlete that you really got to want to do it. I didn't really want to do it. Like I after my senior year, I had 2 knee surgeries. I had a messed up shoulder. My wrist was still fat from football. Like I was just in pain, and I was like, you know what? I don't care to do this. But I made myself the promise. I said, all right, if I get invited to the combine, I'll pursue it because now I have a realistic chance of pursuing it professionally. But to me, it was never a dream to be in the NFL. It was just like, all right, like I got school paid for. I got a free master's degree out of this from Newhouse, which is crazy. I got to meet lifelong friends. Like I did everything I set to accomplish in football. And when I got the combine invite, that basically means you were one of the top 300 in the country for the sport. I was like, all right, like, cool. Like I'll put grad school to the side for a little bit, take a break, and see where this will lead. And little did I know at that point, my life would just become a lifelong adventure of side quest. And to me, I look at the NFL as a side quest. It was always just like, all right, here's who I am. Here's my focus on what I want to do. And that didn't necessarily, it wasn't that detailed. It was just like a little cloud in the sky with like all of my interests. And that is kind of my path. But then on the side, it's just like, oh, cool, NFL. Like, let's see what we could do in this. Cool, food. Like, let's take a little detour and see what we could do in that. And NFL was just the first one. I went undrafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I was good. I was really good at football. I ended up going to the Texans, and my second year, I was a starter at fullback. They moved me from linebacker to fullback, and was a starter on the team, started off special teams, and on one of the last days of practices, I injured my neck. Last player practice, injured my neck, and tried to play through it, but just kept making it worse. A week later, I was just like, man, I can't keep doing this. And they would like put these needles in my back to try to like take some of the pain away. I remember calling my step-pop up, like, man, I don't really care to do this. Like, I'm getting up out of bed and I can't walk. My knee is swelling up, and I'm trying to fake it in practice. Like, I'm doing all these things. My neck is injured now, and after a couple of weeks, I just was out. Went back to Syracuse the next day, enrolled in grad school, and finished up that spring. Got my master's in advertising. Moved to Boulder, Colorado for an internship. Moved to New York City. Stayed there for 4 years. Worked in advertising, and then I won a meatball competition.
Yes.
Ow.
Which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
You know, one thing I really, really love about this story, right, is like, I think a lot of people get stuck on plan A and they have a problem thinking about a plan B.
Yeah.
But what I love about what you're saying is that even though you got this invite, you know, to join the league, right, you in your head were like, I'm going to see it through. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, it don't work.
Yeah.
I can go back to school and I can go finish my degree and I can go do some other stuff, which I think is really phenomenal, you know?
Yeah.
I think a lot about the book, The Raisin in the Sun, about people and their dreams deferred.
Yep.
And if for me, it feels like you've had a constant dream, right? Like, it's not like you had one dream. You've had multiple dreams. And rather than deferring them, you're like, you know, I'm just going to keep trying things and see what happens. And so now, let's go into, you got your degree, right? You went into advertising for 4 years in New York City, and you win this meatball competition. Yep. You know, some people were like, in their head, who may have been following you, were like, what is this, right?
Where'd this come from?
Advertising, meatballs. Like, how does all of this actually, like, live within each other? Tell me, before we even get to the competition, like, what is food to you? Like, what has food meant to you throughout the course of your life? Because I remember when I was doing some research, you had an interview where you were like, yo, this started with me seeing like my mom cook or seeing like my family cook, right? And for me, it was the same. You know, I'm equally passionate about food as well. And so I'm curious, like, how did you make this make sense for you? And like, what was the origins of that?
Well, so this is grandma. And I learned how to cook from the women in my family. My mom, my grandmothers. And so, like, created a logo kind of encapsulating all of the women that I've seen cook in the kitchen and who I learned from. When I was actually in college, football players, we don't get to go home for breaks. And so for holidays, we would stay on campus, and either you went to a coach's house or you would cook at your house or you're on South Campus. And so 1 year, me and my roommate, Doug, we made Thanksgiving dinner. And I made a beer can chicken. Doug made these bomb-ass greens. And we just invited a couple teammates over, and we got down. We got busy in the kitchen. In the summers, we would do my roommate, Suter, he was from like Hicktown, Pennsylvania. He would shoot deer up in Syracuse and then chop them all up, and we would have deer cookouts in the summer. And when I was in college and just being around my teammates, it reminded me of family. And so food to me always meant family. And so when I grew up, my grandmothers, they would invite people over. My mom would invite people over. We would always commune around food. When Mike Tyson was fighting, there was always food on the table. When it was holidays, there was always food. If somebody was needed to be healed, you did that at the dinner table. When you got to college, it was the same thing. The camaraderie that you built around the table was something that is spiritual. Like, you don't really have to say anything. And over the years, like, I started to realize that's what food was. Like, it was just a unwritten word that you can experience without having to say anything. And I appreciated that. It's similar to advertising, like this idea of a story being visual. A story can also be created on your taste buds. Like, you can use different types of fires, right? Like, I could taste something and be like, damn, like that was done with flame. That was done in the oven. That was done that was seared really well. Like, I could use all of these little cues just because I understand the food. And to me, that's all storytelling. And so fast forward, I cooking for my teammates, it kind of started to hone this craft, and it brought back this interest in me where I was like, all right, like I enjoy this. And when I got to the league, I just started practicing. Like, I had expendable income and a ton of time. And so I would just practice cooking different things in my apartment. And I remembered when I was in grad school, one day I came home from class and I had like a couple ingredients in the fridge, and I was like, all right, I could make meatballs with this, and decided to make this sauce called the OG sauce. Now it's called OG. It was just a sauce back then. And I remember I tasted it, and I hit up my friend Bruce, and I was like, yo, come through, we got a winner. Came through, he tried it, and I was like, man, that's good. I'm gonna sell this one day. And I don't waste words. Like, I don't really care to. I don't just talk the talk. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And once I got to the league, like I said, I practiced, and I just kept practicing. And I knew that I had at least one thing that I made the best. Nobody could mess with this sauce and this meatball recipe. And when I was working in advertising, my boss was like, yo, it's a competition coming up. And I entered the competition in Brooklyn, and I won. And I was like, oh, bet. Like, if they like it, now I know that one person likes it, I could see if more people like it. But to go back to the question, it was just like, it was storytelling in a different form. And I relearned my appreciation of it because I was able to add a different context to it. This idea of food being family.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that. That story reminds me of my own family. I'm Puerto Rican, and so we commune over food at any point in time. Like, if we're gonna have a baptism, we're convening around food. If we're watching Sábado Gigante back in the day with Don Francisco, there was food, right? I'm even thinking, like, in my own life right now, I just had like a Benito Bowl party, right? And I invited a whole bunch of my peoples. Like, that's not technically family, but it's like friends that have become family, right? And we gathered around food. And I think that communing around food is really important culturally. And I think it also, like you said, it sends a message to the world about like what you value and like how you actually are in community with people. And so the question that I have for you is, when you are thinking about, like, you're winning this meatball competition, right? And now you're starting this sauce, right? Tell me, at the time, did you think that you would take it as far as you've had? And we're gonna talk about like how far you've taken it, but like, do you feel like you knew then that you were gonna go this far? Because it's become like a thing, right? It's not like, you won the competition and then that was it. No, it's okay. It's not like you won the competition, it was it. Like, there's been you doing a lot of stuff deeper with food. You become a food personality, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so did you know then that was what it was gonna be?
Yeah. I'm
He said, yeah. Like, what you mean, Jess?
The thing is, if you've been an athlete your entire life, you're wired a little differently than most people. And the confidence that comes with being an athlete, like, it ain't really much that I'm afraid of. Just because the adversities and the just the things that you go through in life, sports are a microcosm of that, and just transformed into a different context. But you kind of get to practice these things over and over and over for your entire life. And that builds a certain type of confidence in you, or it diminishes a certain type of confidence in you. And so for me, being an athlete, one, my mindset is just, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to practice at it so much, and I'm going to be a student of it to the point where I have no choice but to be really good at it. And I'm also not going to play myself. Like, I'm not. If I'm a running back, I'm not a cornerback. I'm not all of these. I'm not a quarterback. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to do things that are outside of my comfort zone. That I'm going to play myself doing. Hence, I started with meatballs. Like, I didn't start with a souffle, or I ain't going out there and acting like I'm Bobby Flay and I know all these things. I took something that was familiar and I got really good at it, and I specialized in that one thing. And from that small scope, then I was able to grow out. But I didn't do something that I knew I couldn't do. And so I knew that by me having a strategy within food, saying like, all right, I'm going to focus on meatballs and I'm going to be the best at meatballs. And then if something else comes along the way, cool, that's another side quest. But my goal is to be the best meatball maker I could be. And over the years, I just practiced that one thing.
Yeah.
And so because I did that, because I literally would like sit up and research, I spent so much money just like practicing and throwing resources at it, from time to money to asking friends, like social currency, like, you like this? Like, give me pure feedback. You know what I mean? Don't lie to it. Just tell me what you think of it. I invested so much into it, almost as if it was football, that I knew that I would be good at it. And now looking at where I've been able to get, it's the same thing. Like, once you get into any arena, whether it's athletics or it's food, you start to realize that there's so many different branches on that tree that you can kind of go on and hop on that branch and be like, oh, like, I'm gonna play on this one, and it's cool. Like, catering is one little branch. You can hop around and be like, oh, this is fun, it's bouncy. TV, you can get into that and be like, oh, like, this is cool, I appreciate this. And then there's other branches where you might get on and you like, this ain't really for me, but I'm gonna just keep climbing that tree, and I'm gonna find little other branches that lead off of the food thing. And so content, TV, catering, we had a barbecue restaurant for the past year that we just closed down, Smoky Chance. And so I just do all of these things because they're just little branches on my tree, and I like them. And since I'm in food, it grants me the opportunity to see different things that people not on this tree or within this lane, they'll never see, because they never been on this road. They don't know this little side streets. And so for me, I'm in this food lane, this content lane, but I'm also just in it's a connection lane. Like, food is family, food is connection. And so from that standpoint, I kind of get to venture off and do food adjacent things as well. But still lead with hospitality is like the spear, or the point on the spear, but be able to just do little things as I see fit and say like, oh, that might be cool. And I also allow myself to be flexible enough that, yeah, I could just try different things as I climb up the tree.
Yeah. I love your framing on this, in that, like, you know, you try one thing, and then from that one thing, a lot of other things branch off. You know, I even think about like my own career. You know, I started in tech education. Well, no, I started in tech, then I realized I was actually more passionate about tech talent, right? Which has gotten me to do what I've done with AOT. And then from AOT, there have been lots of other stuff that has like popped up, like this podcast, right? Being able to take my work and do consulting for other organizations. And so I love the idea of like, well, you start with one thing, you really master it, you do a really good job, and then you go see, you know, where else you can take it. And I think it speaks a lot to like multi-hyphenate and multi-passionate personalities. I think, I think a lot of times the world tries to box us in to one lane, not realizing that we actually can operate in multiple lanes.
Yeah.
And I think especially, me having grown up in New York City, I've always seen jacks of all trades, right? Like I've always seen people that have done multiple things. But I think when I started my career in corporate, it was kind of frowned upon for you to have like passions outside of work unless it was like going to the gym, right? And so I know when you started the meatball business that you were also doing it while still having a 9 to 5.
Yep.
How did you make sure that during that time, having had a job but still growing your side quests, that you didn't let these big institutions discourage you from continuing to do what you were doing outside of work?
Well, when I was in grad school, I had this professor who taught us he had this investment principle. It was called 70-20-10. And I remember in class, he was like, whenever we would, he was the CEO of this company, whenever we would invest, we had a 70-20-10 strategy. 70% of your time, resources, whatever, goes into something that's tried and true. 20% goes into new and emerging. 10% goes into wild and crazy. Can I curse? I ain't gonna say
it's
that.
fine.
Wild and crazy shit. So like if you think about that from an investment standpoint, 70% gonna go into Coca-Cola or IBM or Apple. 20% may go into Tesla or right now maybe something in NVIDIA or something along those lines that's new and emerging. 10% goes into wild and crazy shit. It would have been Bitcoin a couple years ago. It might be something else that's emerging in the future. Robotics maybe or something along those lines. If you take that same model and adopt it to your personal life and your career, now everything makes sense because I could take my full-time job and now that's in my 70% bucket. So 70% of my time, resources is going to go into something that's going to bring me 70% in return. At that time, it was my full-time job. Now that 10%, right? It used to be meatballs. I would spend 10% of my time on resources on perfecting my meatball recipe. Now, when I won that competition, I moved it to that 30. And I started to invest a little bit more time into it. And that 10 became writing or just my personal interests, things that I didn't necessarily need a return from, but I was willing to invest at least 10% of my time into it.
Yeah.
Now, once I got to a point where I knew I was going to get let go from this job, now that meatball took over, it became 70% of my time. And not just meatballs, it became catering. And so I started to create a website, like things that I didn't before do in that 30% bucket. Now it'll require more of my time because I was readying myself to do it full time. And so I started to just pump more resources into it. And once you get to that point, it's kind of like you Captain Kirk in a captain's chair. And you could say, boom, like I have all of these skill sets. Corporate is starting to go down. Let's ease that back and we're gonna pump that 30 up and we're just gonna move that over. Cool. Now that 30% bucket, it ain't working out no more. We're just gonna put that all the way to the back burner. And that thing that I was working on in that 10%, we're gonna move that over. And you could just kind of play musical chairs with it. And when you do something like that, what you start to realize is that for a very long time, all you've been doing is practicing. And that's what football is. That's what I've done my whole life. I've practiced as something I want to be good at. And when you kind of break it up into, it ain't necessarily got to be 70-20-10, but it's being intentional about how you spend your time and the things that you practice so that when it is time to kind of move that to a different bucket, you are well versed in it enough that you can go full throttle and start to go full speed on it. And so for me, I was let go from my job April 18, 2017. 3 months later, that same company called me back to cater one of the meetings. And so I walked out of there as like with I didn't even walk out with my head down. I ducked in the bathroom and like ducked the HR person and like ran out the back door. But then I came back with my badge.
Yeah.
And they paid me to cater one of their meetings. I mean, so like after that, like I said, it wasn't full throttle it ain't gonna be you ain't going 100 miles per hour, but I'm putting time into it and I'm starting to see results from it. And after that 3 month, I just kept hitting milestones. And now this would be 10 years, November 2nd. I started the LLC for 99 Eats, which is my company.
Yeah.
And it'll be 10 years that I've worked for myself full time.
Yeah.
And it's just been, I don't know, like I said, I live a life of side quests, but I just got that North Star where I'm always driving to it, and I'm nimble enough because of my 70-20-10 rule, or however you want to put it. I'm nimble enough to always be able to do side quests. And sometimes those side quests lead to TV shows or whatever. But I just do it. I love it.
Well, so then, all right. So let's talk about 99 Eats. Like, what is it? What does it do? And like, what made you want to start the company?
You know, we share a mutual friend, Michael Gersha.
Yeah,
so Mike,
I love Mike Gersha.
Mike introduced me to a lawyer. And I remember before I started 99 Eats, me and him sat down and I was like, yo, I want to do this thing. I kind of wanted to be a pop-up style experience, or the way you would think of a folder on a computer. Like, I want 99 Eats to be a folder on a computer that when I open it, it's just a bunch of little documents and things in there. And then when I close it, it's just a single folder. And nobody knows what's in it but me, right? And as time went on, I kind of do little things, put it in the folder. Do little things, do it in the folder. And over time, now when I open up that folder, it's a crazy mix of documents within that folder that I'm able to kind of click on and become that whatever in that space. I could be a caterer. I could be an on-camera personality. I could be a social media content creator. I could be a personal chef for a celebrity. I could host a party. You know what I mean? But over the years, I've been able to kind of like practice these little crafts and put it in my little 99 Eats folder. And so from a business standpoint, 99 Eats basically encapsulates everything that I do. It's just my protection when I'm signing a contract. Instead of it being Derrell Smith, it's just 99 Eats, and I'm lending out the likeness of Derrell Smith to complete whatever task it is.
Yep.
But from a optical standpoint and just what it is I don't know. It's the manifestation of grandma, right? Like grandma that's the thing. Like, if you think of grandma as a entity, grandma represents comfort. She represents her food is something that you really can't explain. You just eat it and you like a deep breath. Over the years, what I realized 99 Eats is like, all right, real cooking, if you see that logo, that food is gonna be busting. Like that's what it is. But it took time to me to get to that point. And within that folder, is just a lot of different things that I can do. And so I would say, just to be able to save time, that's what 99 Eats is. 99 Eats is just a folder on a computer that I open up, and I kind of get to do all of these different things. From a business standpoint, it's XYZ, but from a spiritual standpoint, it's just, I don't know, it's we spreading love through food. That's what it is. That's how I define it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I ain't gonna lie. I was gonna shed a little thug tear, especially when we said manifestation of grandma. I love my grandma.
Hell yeah.
You know, she passed away when I was really young, but like that visual that I have of her, like in a rocking chair, experiences she provided, love she provided, is like, I felt that in my core when you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my grandma passed away a couple years ago. The one, I had multiple grandmas, but the one that the logo is favored to, she passed away a couple years ago. And after her funeral, I was in the shower. I was like washing up. You ever seen the show Highlander?
No, but I've heard of the show.
Highlander would like absorb souls, and he like became more powerful in those moments.
Soul snatcher.
It was a soul absorber, yeah. And I remember I was in the shower one day and I just felt my grandma's spirit enter my body, and I did like a little ugh. But yeah, like and I'm a Cancer too. Like I'm a empath. Like I just soak up all of these different things around me, and I vividly remember that. And it might not mean anything to other people, but when you have those little personal anecdotes that you can remember, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. Like the day I absorbed my grandma's spirit after she passed away, and I would say like when somebody sees me in the kitchen, I am who I am. Like I still look like a football player probably, but if I serve you food and you see me in the kitchen, I'm hunched over and I transform like Urkel into like this old grandma when I'm serving food, and that's just so the character that I bring on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so you got 99 East. 99 East is this folder where you can do many things. You can be a private chef. You can be a caterer. You can host a pop-up. You can be a TV personality talking about food. And, you know, like you said, it's the protection. It's the LLC that you built around you. And so when you think about, you know, being able to do all of these things and having all of these different capabilities, right? I think that people don't realize that you don't just get there overnight, right? Like there's a process that you go through. There are opportunities that come your way that kind of expose you to the kinds of things that you can accomplish, right? And so when you think about like breaking into the food industry, right? Because when I think about breaking into the food industry, I don't know that there's a lot of like information out there on how to break into food the same ways in which people break into tech, right? Like I can say, you know, how does someone break into tech? And there's like a whole bunch of like data and information about it. But I don't know that I would get that same kind of result if I put in break into food. And so in your opinion, how does someone break into food? And what does that mean to you when I even ask that question?
You know what's wild? I'm not a very filtered person. Is that okay?
That's fine. No,
right.
This is unfiltered.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, it's Real Talk Podcast.
I would say in the beginning, my strategy was just to sell ethnic food to white folks.
Okay.
Right? Like
Okay.
that was the strategy. Because in that realm, one, they could afford it, right? And then two, they would share it with other people who could afford it.
Okay.
And so to me, from a food standpoint, there's not many margins in food. The margins are so tight that you got to find ways to stick out. And within food, there are also different levels. I remember in grad school, we had the same professor who gave us the 70-20-10. He also gave us the strategy of like a Gap, right? Gap, Old Navy, and then you got Banana Republic. And so what he said, he was like, look, they own this whole market. They have something for these people in the middle. They got something for the people down here, and they got something for the people up here. When I got into food, I had a strategy, and I was like, all right, I want to come in at this price point.
Yep.
Who can afford my food and pay my bills? And then once I get them to pay my bills, how can I then create my Old Navy? And then how can I also create my my Banana Republic? And so I came in with the strategy. I said, versus me trying to like, I don't really care to sell food for cheap. Like that ain't it. Like what I'd rather do is come in at a price point that says, okay, like you going pay this, but you also going to get a quality meal out of it. And what I did was I did corporate catering. I went to different offices and we popped up and we served lunch to predominantly white companies, and they paid my bills. And then I got into Smorgasburg, and that was kind of like my Old Navy where I could sell at a slightly cheaper price point, but it was accessible to everybody. But I made sure that I could pay my bills first. And it ain't, like I say selling ethnic food to white folks, obviously it was every person in there. But traditionally, like I was at hedge funds serving meatballs. I was in places where you usually wouldn't see ethnic food. But these motherfuckers, they was like, ooh, you put a little spice in this meatball. And now it allowed me to stick out because it wasn't something that they was used to seeing. And so I made sure I got my money. And then after that, I started to branch out and say, boom, now that we got this taken care of, now I can start to serve food to everybody. And I could start to expand the brand because now it's a wider audience, but I got to make sure I took care of this then. And then later on, then I was able to do, now I could do a celebrity party, which is a higher end or a higher end catering just because of these two that I did before. Yeah. But I made sure when I broke in, I made sure that I paid my bill. I didn't come in. I think the issue with a lot of people who get into food, and this was also my issue in the very beginning. You get in and you don't look at it as a business. Business is business. I don't care whether you're selling tech, whether you're selling food, whether you're selling cars, clothes, whatever it is. The object of business is to buy something or create something that's cheap and sell it for a premium so you can make profit off of it. You have to look at food the same exact way, because if you don't, that's how people mess up. And that's why a lot of food businesses fail, because they come into it thinking that it's a passion project. It's not that, it's business. And so when it comes to a food business, in order for you to stay in business, you got to find ways to make money. And then eventually you got to start to create more ways to make money, because sometimes those things dry up. And like I said, my little 70-20-10, when those things dry up, I make sure that I'm able to just accelerate in different areas until the other one pick back up. Yeah. And that's how I did it. But I would say that's the goal. Like, if you get into food, make sure you can pay your bills. Like, don't get into any business as a passion. Yeah. At first, use the passion as fuel to drive it, yes. But if you trying to play this game, the entrepreneurship or the business game, that ain't the game. Like, it ain't the game of giving out free food. Yeah. The game is to make sure that you could pay your costs and make a living off of it, and then expand from there. Yeah. And I hope that was a little. I mean, it's the truth though. Like, that's what it is.
No, I mean, like, I hear you. You know what I'm saying? Like, as someone who's been independent for 12 years now, like, at some point, the math has to math.
It got to math, yeah.
Yeah, the math has to math. And I think a lot of us who are building things from scratch don't realize that, like, passion does not pay the bills.
Hell no.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, for some people that might come from tremendous privilege, you know, they have the ability to just work on their passions. That wasn't my story. Yeah. You know, I'm first generation from Brooklyn, right? Like, I remember when I told my dad and my mom that I left my job to do what I'm doing full time, they were like, well, you know, you're not coming back here, right? Yeah. And so, you know, I think that's a really important point. And so let's talk a little bit about also, you didn't just, you know, start a food company. Like, you also have become like a food personality.
I'm a celebrity, man. Like, I was in Mexico last year. I got stopped in the airport.
I think this is dope. Like, every time I see some of your stuff, I'm like, wow, like, he's really just like on a food talking tour. Like, I think that's so dope. So tell people, like, how did you even think about, like, you know what, I'm gonna just go and, like, see if I can become a food personality? Or was it like someone was like, Derrell's dope and I want him to go do this thing for me?
No, it was so I'm giving you a summary of how I got here, right? This is very hard. Like, to get to this point in anything, you would know this. If you are able to last 12 years, you understand how hard it is to get to that point. And you understand the sacrifice. You understand sometimes it's hard. And so in the beginning, I was delivering meatballs on my bike in New York. You know what I mean? Like, I would put them in my book bag and deliver meatballs. I would go to Restaurant Depot in Queens and pack my stuff up into Uber pools and be sitting next to, like, other customers with crates on my lap. And I would go to offices and serve World Trade Center. I was pulling up in Uber pools, serving 120 something people with all my shit in the trunk. And so over the years, like, I didn't accept no for an answer. Like, I didn't have money to pay for a regular Uber, so boom, we gonna pull it up. Sometimes I deliver on the 8th MTA. I was on the train delivering meatballs, right? So, like, in the beginning, it was just like no for an answer, no no's. It was also luck in different ways, because I was always in the right position at the right time. And so, like I mentioned, when I first got into food, I started in something called Smorgasburg. Smorgasburg was it was huge in Brooklyn. It still is.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, this shit was like, it was harder to get into Smorgasburg than Harvard.
Yeah.
And we got into Smorgasburg with Amaze Balls, the meatball branch of 99s. And once I got into that, the media, like the people would just start coming. Bed Bath Beyond was one of those people in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. And so they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we're opening up a food studio in Sunset Park. We would like you to come and be one of the just guests for the thing. Did that and killed it. A few months later, the executive chef for the studio retired, and they hit me up. They was like, yo, you want to be our executive chef for Bed Bath Beyond? I was like, hell yeah. I would love to. And like I said, this was the same year I got released from my job. So that probably August, I did the first Bed Bath Beyond thing that January. Around August, they called me and said the guy retired. And for 3 years, I would go to Bed Bath Beyond weekly, and I was a big black Rachel Ray. Like I would stand in front of a crowd of, it was probably about 60 people who would sit in front of my little studio space. It was a kitchen set up, and it was cameras that would film me. And it kind of taught me how to do food theater. Yeah. But I was every single position. Like in food TV, you have a culinary producer, you have all of these different people who kind of, they chop your stuff up, they give you a script, they do all of these things. At Bed Bath Beyond, I was every single role. And so I understood how to produce the content, understood how to prep all of my stuff. My mise en place was set for that morning and then also that night. And then the presentation was, I would cook the food, I would teach people how to cook it, I would present to them how to cook it, and then at the end they would taste it, all while it was being filmed. And the athlete in me would create dishes that I'd never made in my entire life, right? And I would create my little calendar for the year, and I would be like, shit, I ain't never made this. Bet, we gonna try it. And I would literally come in that morning, make it for the first time, and then teach people how to make it that night. And so, like I said, I started with meatballs, right? So meatballs was, I was doing catering by this point. During the day, I would sell meatballs. And then on my Thursdays at Bed Bath Beyond, that's when I started to expand. And I would make all of these different things, and then I would present it that night, and we would film it. And I equate it to, like, now I just say I got paid to practice. Like everything I've done, I've always got paid to practice. And that was one of the things where I got paid to practice. Now, how that came into to what I do now, when you do food theater, it would be like being a movie actor who has a theater background. Like if I'm on film, I can imagine the people in front of me. And I've seen their reactions. And so if I'm doing TV now, the way that I present anything is as if I'm presenting it to a live audience. And I did this, like I said, I did this for 3 years, every single week, multiple times a week. And so I got very comfortable with being in front of large crowds. I got very comfortable with being in front of a camera until I was able to treat a camera like a person, I treat a camera like a person. And with food TV, it's the same thing. Like you have to come into it with some type of point of view, something that kind of separates you from anybody else. And from a uniqueness standpoint, I'm a character. Like you kind of take all of these different things that you do and you exaggerate it. And so I learned from being in front of these audiences at Bed Bath Beyond, that was my character. Like the little pieces of my personality, I exaggerate those things on camera, and I just learned how to do that from a technical standpoint. And then from an entertaining standpoint, that was just practice. Like it was just, since I'd done it so much, I understood the technical aspect of being entertaining. Yeah. From all right, like if I'm setting up this dish, it's almost like a script that you have to go through in order to present it technically. And then from an entertainment standpoint, you can kind of pull from this bucket of whatever your anecdote is, whether it's a dance you do or if you Emerald Lagasse, you say bam or whatever he says, right? Like those are the little creative aspects that you bring into it, but then from a technical standpoint, you also just got to make sure you do your job.
Yeah.
And so over the years, like technically I was able to combine these things that made me good at being a host, and I'm good at it. Like I'm not humble. I'm a humble, but
He's like, I'm that dude.
I'm good at what I do because I understand the technical aspect of it, the entertainment aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I could do that whether it's TV, whether it's food, whether I'm serving you. Every single thing I do has me in it. If you taste my food, you're gonna be like, oh, Rel made this. If you see me on TV, you like, that's who he is. Like I'm not, I don't change. Like I just go into things, but I'm comfortable enough because I understand the technique of it to present as myself, just an exaggerated Botox version of it for the TV. If that makes sense. Like I'm being a little unfiltered, but it's what it is. It's the truth.
No, I really appreciate the candor. I think it's really important that people hear it in this way.
Yeah.
And so in that same vein, right, for someone who is looking to break into like food content creation, right? Because one thing I've been noticing, you see all of these entertainers now like making food videos. Like there was Victoria Monet. She recently, I guess went to chef school, and now she's like becoming a food content creator. I'm out here creating like food content, right? But it's honestly because I enjoy it. I don't know that I'm trying to take it anywhere or anything like that. I don't know what Victoria Monet's goal is, right? But Lady London, she dropped a cooking video recently, and so there is something to be said about like people really enjoying cooking and creating content around cooking. So what advice do you have for folks that are trying to become like food content creators, food personalities, about, how to hone in and better their crafts?
You just got to develop your personality and your uniqueness, because it's such a crowded market that you got to kind of present something that is unique.
Yeah.
And so it just comes with practice. Like you just keep doing it. Like it's like anything else from a creator standpoint. If you want to do it on social media, if you're talking about from a TV standpoint, from a TV standpoint, it's relationships. Like it's just knowing the people who are in positions to put you on to those things, and just make sure you maintain those relationships. And so that's the two sides of it. If you're a celebrity that kind of breaks into food, it's a little easier because you have that audience already, and they already understand and trust your brand enough to know that if they subscribe to this content, by the end of it, they'll learn something new.
Yeah.
And so if you're getting into a food space, I would say you start with that. One, you always start with why you want to do it, obviously. But at the end of that video, you got to make sure that you're producing something that leaves people smarter after they watch it, so that they then begin to develop that trust and say, boom, if I subscribe to this and I dedicate this much time to it, by the end of this video or by the end of whatever I consume from this person, I'll be left smarter than them before viewing it. And so I would say that, like, I think that applies across anything. But with food, it's just, all right, do I trust this recipe? Like, after, am I going to look at her and be like, that shit look nasty? Or am I going to be like, damn, I'm going to go get the ingredients and make that? And so if you go into it with the idea that I want to inspire somebody to make this dish after I'm done, I would lead with that.
Yeah. That's really, really good advice.
But thank you.
It's really good advice. I'm in a season of my personal life where I am doing things that I feel called to without having to think about a business model, monetization. I don't want to think about that. I kind of just want to do because it feels purposeful to me.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of like cooking videos around like Puerto Rican cuisine, which is like what I'm most familiar with, right? That's what I grew up on. But I think like the point that you said around like making sure that you're very clear on like why you're doing something is important, because you can kind of get lost in the sauce, right?
That's a fact.
Yes. Yeah. And so in the same, vein of like
speaking of sauce, my bad to cut you off. Let me give you a little, I got a little gift for you.
Oh, a gift for me.
You got that Amaze Balls hat.
Oh.
Yeah, you rock that around Brooklyn.
Amaze Balls. Look at that, y'all. I love it. Y'all see this?
Keep it saucy. That's our motto.
This feels velvety.
Premium.
It feels premium. You know, I guess Derrell is true. Oh, wow. Yo, it says the Uncle Rel cap.
Uncle Rel cap.
I love it. You know, I'm really going to rock this.
I hope so, yeah.
You know what? I'm going to make a video. One of my food videos. I'm going to rock
I appreciate that.
I'm going to make a meatball video.
There it is. but that's the thing. Like, I think when you develop a brand, right? Like, that hat is me in hat form. Like, I'm an old soul, but I'm also whimsical. So, like, the colors of it, the typeface, but the feel of it feels premium.
Yeah.
And I feel like from a branding standpoint, that's my food. Like, I could take something that is supposed to be hoity-toity or like for a certain audience, but I could make it whimsical that everybody can kind of indulge in it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think like over the years, like obviously, like I said, it takes time to hone it, but then you start to realize like, all right, here's my brand, and I can manifest it in so many different areas that when you experience it, it's undeniable. Like you can't deny that it is Derrell. That's it. Yeah.
Facts
so that hat
only.
is me.
Nah, this is really dope. I do see the whimsicalness of it. And, you know, on the topic of being whimsical, right? I think for so many of us that have been independent for a long time, independent of a job, have just been building things over time, I think there's like a childlike imagination that you have to operate with, like this idea that like any and everything is possible, and you know, you gotta have like whims. You have to have a whimsy spirit, right? How do you make sure that you keep your whimsical spirit intact in order to get you to the next chapters of your professional career?
Keep it intact. I would say the exact opposite. I try to just keep it out of like
out of tact.
Yeah, like there's a theoretical space in my brain that is just a large room with just mad shit everywhere and just random projects that I kind of just run to this side of the space and like work on, and then run to this side of the space and work on. And my mind just works like that. But then what happens is it's like, it goes through this little funnel and it's like, boop, 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 and it's calculated. And then when it comes out into the world, it's a little more designed and is made into the sausage. Like it goes through the grinder up here, and then it comes out into like this casing of a sausage. And so I would say like up here, is just free all the time. But then before I present it, I make sure it's cased up and that it can come out and be uniform so that it can be consumed by the people who don't just have this little, this imaginary room in their brain just cluttered and full of shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say I just try to keep it like as boundless as possible from an imagination standpoint. But then based on my experience and understanding consumer, like, it is what it is, like people who consume things. Yeah. Then I'm able to kind of present it in a packaged way, but always just make sure, like I said, my little playroom up here is uniquely things that are unique to me. And so if it's content, if it's a hat, whatever it is, it's going to go through my little room, and then it's going to come through the funnel, it's going to go through the nice sausage, sear it up, and then we present it to the people.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I have a little room up there with me too.
Yeah.
You know, my co-founder Evan always says, like, Jessica, you're always thinking about the next thing. You're always like trying to invent things and create things. And I realized that like he's that way as well. You know, I actually realized that like not a lot of people have enough playroom in their heads. Yeah. Right. So that's why I asked the question on like, how do you make sure that you protect that? Because I think that is actually what separates someone who is like a talker from a doer. Yeah. I think it's what separates someone from like realizing their dreams versus just kind of like letting them, you know. Oh yeah. You know, lift to the like kind of go left to the side.
I mean, I also got to shout out my lady, Cheryl. She Shout out Syracuse, man.
Shout
Evan,
out Syracuse.
Yo, I love Syracuse.
Yes. Shout out Cheryl.
Yeah, man.
Shout out. I mean, y'all, like Derrell just became a dad with
I'm
Cheryl.
a dad. Yep.
Yeah, but go ahead. Shout her out.
Shout out my baby girl, Deli Rose.
Aww.
Yep, 5 months old. She already got 2 teeth, which is crazy. But Shey, man, we've known each other a very long time. Mm-hmm. Like I've known Shey since she was a sophomore in college. I was a sophomore. She was a freshman in college. So we've known each other a very long time. And luckily we reconnected 5 years ago, and now we got a baby together, which is crazy. Yeah. But she also allows me to just she understands me enough to know that I need that time. Like to be able to just like sit in my little quiet space and experiment with things. And so shout out to her, like being a mom now, but still having the grace to be able to grant me that time to just be by myself sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? So just having somebody who, if you got somebody, having somebody who grants you that time and understands you as a person to give you that. And then if you by yourself, just making sure that you got your routines, and you make sure you add some jazz to it, where you just go off on a tangent and then you just come back to where you are. But you got to have that playful nature in there so that you can tap into that creative childlike energy that you once had. Yeah. Right? Like it shouldn't be a once had. It's just always there. But sometimes you just gotta put the toys away. Yeah. And then when it's time, you go to your playroom and you experiment and do your thing.
For sure. Yeah. Word. Well, thank you so much, Derrell.
Yeah, no doubt.
What is next for you? Like, what is next for 99 Eats? What is next for Amaze Balls? I know you said you had Smoky Chance Barbecue Restaurant. I think you are like transforming it, or it's changing. Like, what is next for all of your endeavors?
So right now I'll be in Miami in 2 weeks. Actually, we're doing a show down there for Miami Wine and Food, and then I'm moving to Atlanta in the next couple weeks. Okay. So that'll be a change of scenery, and also just like a new hustle, like understanding the environment. And so just doing a deep dive into the culture of Atlanta, seeing what I add to the space, seeing how I can absorb different things from it. I'm working on a project in St. Croix with a mentor of mine. They're doing they have a sugar plantation down there that produces liqueurs and rums. And so I'll be going back down there to help them build out their cafe, and also to help with like standardizing their recipes and creating some type of system for it's called Prosperity Farm. Nice. And so I'm helping them build that out. TV is still going. Like I said, I'm filming a show in 2 weeks in Miami, and then just ongoing. And food, I think that once I'm in Atlanta and I get a lay of the land, hopefully we could bring, it might not even be Smoky Chance or Amaze Balls, but bring some type of food, something to Atlanta. And I would say that's what I'm focused on now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, where can people find you and support your work and get involved with anything that you're doing?
You can find me. Let me see. Google Derrell. No, I'm playing. But yeah, Google Derrell Smith and just look up the shows. Like, go watch some shit. You know what I mean? Like, watch the little thing on Today's Show. Mad Good Food is still airing on TV, so you can watch 3 seasons of that. From a social media standpoint, my name on social media is Relly Crocker, not Betty. Relly Crocker, and then just tune into it, and you'll just see me doing random shit and going on side quest for the rest of my life.
Well, everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Behind the Work. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it. Make sure that you subscribe to YouTube, follow us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, and obviously on our social media channels. We will make sure to see you next week. Mwah. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Behind the Work. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and follow us on social media. I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing how this show is leaving an impact on you.